Okay, 98 4Runner. Make sure you jack it up. You got stands on the frame and a backup. And we are doing lower ball joints. Quick and easy video. You got a 24mm here, securing the lower ball joint to the lower control arm. This is 24mm, get the cotter key out, and then 24mm either impact wrench or a breaker bar. And then the next item to deal with is the better lighting. I got this one free, the 24mm. We've got 4 of these securing the lower ball joint to the steering knuckle. These are 14mm, and this is very fragile. If you were to ever mess these up, or your knuckle, you'd have a serious problem. So use a breaker bar and a 14mm to break these 4 free. So I got a really small breaker bar, 14mm socket. Get it seated on there. There it goes. Nice and loose. And you can either break this one free with a breaker bar 24 or an Ooga Dooga. You just want to be really careful. And you can do this before or after this step, but you have your tie rod end meeting the steering knuckle, 19mm. Take the cotter key out, break this off, and you're gonna break the tie rod free away from this. And you're gonna use a tie rod and puller, and then the ball joint puller comes down. So here's the tricky part. I got the cotter and the castle nut 19mm. You can reuse this on this tie rod end for the knuckle, but do not reuse this one. Your new OEM ball joint will come with a new nut and cotter. So now we need to place these tines. You can see where these tines are going to go underneath the knuckle, between the boot and the knuckle. So you place it like so, slide it through, and the stud is going to push on the stud and separate them from each other. And in this moment you can turn the key, open your steering, so that you can make this easier. Grab the tie rod and push the caliper, and I can open it. So unfortunately the tie rod puller is bullshit and it doesn't really fit, so I'm using my ball joint puller, and you can see it's placed as cleanly as I can under the boots. So it's got the metal of the knuckle, the stud is contacting the stud, and then put a 19mm socket up here, and you're going to slowly drive, and this is going to break apart. Here, makes you happy. Popped free. People bang on these like idiots. You never want to do that, okay? So this tie rod is now free. I got a little bit of grease that came out of the boot. Clean that up and make sure it's not oozing more. I just got grease because I pressed on it a little too much. Check this if it's nice and easy to move around with tension. No loose, weird, grindy feelings. This feels great. Next objective is to free these 4 bolts again, like we said, and then use the puller to break the ball joint free. Okay, you can break the ball joint before doing this. I kind of got ahead of myself, but you can see the ball joint is free from the steering knuckle. So now I'm going to break the ball joint by using the puller, get the tines on the teeth here in between the boot, and you can't worry about this boot because you're replacing it. Same thing on the stud, and then pop this free. Oh, this is what you want. We got it set in between the boot. The tines are in between the boot and the lower control arm. And put a 19 on, and you can. It's always a little scary when this breaks because this one's usually pretty loud. Rookie. Than you should. I'm replacing my CVs too, so ignore the CV coming out of the hub. But I've also got a strap on the strut supporting the CV and the knuckle. So now everything is free. I'd brush this surface with a metal brush where those 4 get rid of that corrosion. Brush this, and you got new hardware to replace all this. You don't want to reuse any of that. The bolt numbers for the new ball joints are part number 980-166. Order 9 of them, just in case. And the lower ball joints come with the new cotter and castle nut. Okay, so next part, ignore the new CV axle. I've got the new ball joint. I matched it up against my old one laying over there. And it on the left side, the driver's side, it says LP or PL. And make sure it says knock. See how it says knock right there? Probably can't see it, but that's a OEM Toyota part. And I would only ever do ball joints OEM. So see how I can get this here, and I'm going to bring it up and match it up to these 4 bolts, and make sure you order these from the factory there, and you're going to tighten them up, equalize them, this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, And the torque spec on these is 59 foot-pounds. Another really good tip, we're going to use some Thread Locker Blue 243. So each one of these, I'm going to put basically one line on each side. One here, on the other side 180. And then put these in, and 59 foot-pounds on each. So a little progress report here. We can see the new ball joint is secured to the knuckle only by 2. I've got 1 and 2. And I made sure the flared male pieces are in the knuckle on both sides. Make sure this is flush. Your life literally sits on this point. So make sure this brand new ball joint is super flush with the 4 contact points. And it's kind of a no-brainer because they have the flared male pieces on the outward side. Those stick in, and then opposite in opposed diagonal. Snug this one, snug this one, snug this one, snug this one, and then repeat with the torque wrench, 59 foot-pounds. And here's kind of what that looks like. Just putting a little thread locker. I get one little line on each side. You know, flip it over. Doesn't have to be perfect, it's just extra security. And then we take this, and booyah. You want no resistance on these. If I felt resistance on this, I would start over. And I would do it. It's very good practice to do it by hand. All the way. And you can see it coming out of the top of the knuckle mating surface below the CV there. Brand new CVs also. So I got this one flush. I'm going to repeat the process for all 4. I'm going to tighten these down 59 foot-pounds, and then we'll come to this beast. This is just loose, just holding the ball joint in place to the... And don't forget, now's the time. I had my tie rod bungeed up like this, so it's out of the way. We're going to reinsert the tie rod back into the steering knuckle here, clean up the boot, make sure it's not leaking too much, make sure it has no cuts. You can reuse this castle. I'd get a new cotter on there, and just make sure you get that all clean. And now it's time to torque these to spec, these 4. Before we do that, we're going to want to reattach our tie rod to the new steering knuckle on the ball joint. And this is a 53 foot-pound. Reuse your castle nut, new cotter pin, absolutely. Clean up the grease, make sure there's no tears, and new grease. Some grease comes out if you really flex it, which is okay. But make sure it doesn't have too much play. And this is 53 foot-pounds. Okay, and here we are torquing equally. Let's get 14 millimeter on there. I gotta rotate this, pull the tie rod. Fucker, come on. Okay. 1. Okay, that's snug. So I'm gonna go to the, I need an extension. Now I wanna lock the steering, so I'm gonna go do that. Okay. Here's the final check. We got the 4 bolts. This is not trued, it's just sitting there. 59 foot-pounds. That one's good. That one's good. That one's good. Alright, so now we can go to 105 foot-pounds on this guy. So this mega bolt gets 105, but you often need to over-torque it. You'll soon see. I've had to do it on, I think I've done these ball joints 8 or 9 times now. You need to over-torque it so the cotter key can make it through. And make sure everything looks good before you hammer this thing in. Okay, looking good. And there we go. One more. I'm pulling my body across. There it is. And you can see, maybe not, the cotter key does not line up with the castle nut, so I'm going to torque it another 5 pounds probably. This is the lovely part of... We're going to have to go even a little more, motherfucker. And here's the magic cotter key. And I love this part. Boop, and bend that. You want to rotate, actually that's bad, you want to rotate it. Bend it, and bend the long side down all the way around flush. You'll see. Cotter key. It's pretty easy to do it the right way, but I've seen people do it a dumb way. All the way flush against the nut. Take the long end down. Get a good grip on it. Make a 90. And then take the head and bend the rest of it against the bottom of the stud. And you can also bend this one upright if you'd like. And this is the cotter key that came with the OEM ball joint. So we got 59 foot-pounds on all four, thread locker, mated, 105 foot-pounds, cotter key, and we're looking good. So we're back here under the finished product. Very important just to remember. So I put some indicator paste on here, which is very important. Use nail polish or whatever. That way you know if there's any movement. These four, your life literally sits on these 4 bolts, 59 foot-pounds to the steering knuckle. If these were to loosen, or if you mounted this not flush, which is very hard to do, you can literally have full collapse. The CV axle will stay connected, but it'll rip out of here and it'll stay connected to the upper ball joint, and you'll have catastrophic failure where the wheel swings out. That's why replacing these with OEM is extremely important. And to conclude, I'd use some indicator on all the nuts, cotter keys and all that. Brand new bolts, I gave you the part number, brand new nut that comes with OEM. And just remember, 59 foot-pounds, 105 foot-pounds. And then we're over here, and we can, I don't know if you can see, we remember that this one, there's conflicting information whether it's 53 foot-pounds or 67. I believe it's 53, but you can do either. New cotter key on that. And make sure you wrap everything up and give it a test drive, 5-10 miles, come down and look at everything. Make sure nothing is adjusted, and then you're good to go. And thank you for watching, and happy wrenching.